I think to myself, we're on a destination and I know not where. But then I thought to myself, this great Ballard line in one of his novels, the last great illusion of air travel is that we have a destination. Artist Journal, April 18th, 2023, broadcasting to the world from Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. And we are on a schedule as usual. This beautiful work here by Rare, it just really, a pastiche work. And I'd never seen the original, although so many paintings from the 18th and 19th century kind of have this color scheme. I don't even know if I've seen this painting before. I mean, it's one of my least favorite periods, actually, in the history of painting, is actually these 18th and 19th century kind of. This is what I consider, and I mean, maybe this is debatable among the scholars, but I consider this the academic style, at least as how it was taught to me when I went to the Academy of Realist Art in Toronto. I went to 2 workshops. You can kind of learn oil painting, I'd argue, the fundamentals in 2 workshops, maybe even 1. It's not rocket science. I mean, basically, long story short, you put a layer of gesso or your primer, whatever the case may be. Then you put a sepia, whether it's a raw umber or a burnt umber or even maybe a burnt sienna, maybe a mix of the 3. This is oil painting colors. And then, so you see there's like a brown underpainting, and that's why these paintings all look the same when you're in a museum, like the Getty has a ton of these things. The Louvre has a ton of these things. And for me, it's an eye-watering in a kind of, time in the museum oftentimes, and I usually tend to pick up the pace. I don't worry about going to every painting like I used to when I started going to museums. So anyways, so this comes out of that tradition, but I think Rare, I don't know, it's like brighter, it's kind of funner, and because there's this Boston Dynamics dog idea, and it's just so much fun and beautiful. Again, the digital seems to brighten it up. It's almost in the alchemical transformation, as I keep saying, from oil painting into digital. Maybe it just gives it a bit of life. I mean, a provocative thesis, I would argue. I mean, does it make it, you don't want to call it better, but I mean, it's a provocative thesis. Like, is there something about it that makes it slightly more interesting? Maybe it's because it's on our screen and then you see these colors somehow work better. We're going to look at the original here, but a beautiful treatment as ever. So let us do that here. And so the Young Spotsman. And so this is a play on the Young Sportsman, a painting I don't think I've ever seen before, but I'm not positive. It looks like the composition is beautiful. It looks like we should have seen it before. And all credit, let's just look at, this is the original, and we'll look at the name of the artist in a second here. So let's just flip back and forth. So you kind of see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure which one holds my interest more, and I'm pretty sure, actually, I think I am sure. And I think it's Rare's, especially with the Boston Dynamics dog in there. Now, of course, let's look at the name of the artist. Robert Edge Pine, 1766, so classic 18th century painting. Of course, Robert Edge Pine deserves a lot of the credit here because they made this beautiful composition that Rare has made a pastiche out of. And so here you see the 2 dogs and everything. But I mean, Rare has done a very nice interpretation of that original. I mean, it's sort of like, again, the words that go through my mind are, who'd you rather? And so here we see oil painting, and, here we see the Procreate oil painting, and you see it's a little brighter. So Rare did a really nice job of making it kind of extra kind of attractive, this beautiful painting. And it's kind of funny because I might look at this for a second before but this holds my attention a little more. And I find that in itself is a little surreal. So anyways, very cool work. I believe minting on Super Rare today. So just released on Twitter first. And also, so Rare, I think it's thrilling. as an artist, kind of coming out of the more or less, where I've been here for the last 6 years, coming out of like the contemporary art scene, so to speak, hanging out with people for years, and then kind of discovering the blockchain thing in the last couple of years. I guess 2020, again, so the years pass, but I'm really thrilled as an artist to see so many things going physical. I think this is incredibly exciting and super bullish for this whole scene. And look at how good this looks. Going to order some test prints of this latest one of one. Am I putting the cart before the horse? Is one of one season over? Well, let's find out. So anyway, it looks like a beautiful version. I can't wait to see more pictures of this. And you see the test print across here, but pretty nice. It looks fairly large, although it's hard to tell. So I'm curious on the size on this thing too. So anyways, looking great from Rare. Speaking of museums, we are going to do a Spaces tomorrow, Twitter Spaces, and we're just going to talk about museums. And I'm calling it our museum serving society's needs. And I actually suspect they are. So it's not attempting to be too provocative here, but just as a discussion point of kind of questioning the underlying, first principles of museums within the context of the recent visit by Runtune and Dr. Version to MoMA. So they're going to talk about their experience, and so I think it'll be really interesting, and as a way of kind of opening up a discussion on museums, which we haven't really talked too much about. So that is tomorrow, Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am pinning the tweet. So you can find that on my feed. Thank you for the likes and retweets as ever. Huge thank you on that. And great comments here. So on yesterday's episode, just a shout out to Ed. So remember and to everybody, but Ed's clarifying here, the Metallica is official, and I thought it was, but this is 100% official, the Metallica video, and I brought it up here. This was seen in hundreds of cinemas in 81 countries on April 13th. Metallica did a listening party for their new album in cinemas worldwide with videos for all the 12 songs. I did song 11. So we're going to look at that in a second. Thank you. This was also something relating to our conversation yesterday. Some of the best artists have anonymous accounts or pseudo-anon alt accounts. Where there is the unknown art or artists with mystery can be very powerful, and it's fine to recognize that virtually all scams have some element of anonymity. So we're following up on Runtune's comment on anonymity, what it means. Is there, if you have several anonymous accounts and you're not being transparent about releasing under that it's the same person, is there something, scammy about that? I'd say in most cases, I'm not too worried about it. Let's put it that way. Will Disposed, I think, makes a good point that and I think that we all know that a lot of anonymous and pseudo-anonymous alt accounts, some of the best artists, or some of the most renowned, we could say, have anonymous accounts. I mean, I'd say it's probably more than 50%. It's probably like going on 70% if I had to, pick a number out of the air. And also Human Boy here. I could not afford the Zancan mint. So talking about FX hash parameter mint a little while ago, I could not afford the Zancan mint, which was between 400 and 1,000 Tezos. But remember from Object 1, Zancan sold a one of one for I think it was $23,000 maybe or something. I missed the initial minting, but some people had used their ticket yet, so I had not used their ticket yet, so I was able to purchase one of them. One of the drawbacks, if you take time to mint the work, someone can buy your ticket out from under you. So already it's a little complicated, this FX param situation. Good news is you can set a high price, but I believe you pay a percentage of that price. It's pretty complicated, is sort of my takeaway. Very fun to be able to control it sounds like you can control the parameters of what you mint, so you can maybe mint something that you want, or that you can tune. You can fine tune an image you're very happy with personally. So a different take on this generative art where you as a collector control some of the parameters, if I understand Human Boy right. I do feel the randomness of a regular generative mint is maybe more fun to me, which is also interesting. So yeah, so it's a little complicated, this whole thing, but so it goes. And shout out to Demon Ego, Retro Manny, Leprochant, Flora. And Arturo is back and unhappy. I asked myself if it's really necessary reviewing Uxine so many times in so many journals. This guy is already a celeb, and I'm pretty sure we all follow him already. All his pieces are systematically transferred, so basically you're reviewing over and over an artist we cannot buy even if we wanted to. So, yeah, I mean, again, this is a journal made public. This, because, you know, and it's not here, in a sense, there's lots of works. Like, I don't think anybody, at least I can't afford, say, the work that Rare made, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to show it based on, you know, so I'm kind of here for just look at how interesting and innovative the art is here. And as far as just showing artists again and again their new works, like I was thinking to myself, this is kind of like, you know, if we're in 1960 and you have the pop artists are happening, for example, just to use a, you know, and then you show a Warhol in 61 and you show a Rauschenberg in 61, are you never going to show another Warhol or Rauschenberg the whole way? And, you know, if you had a show back then. And so I have my way of doing things, and I like it that way. I like to follow artists, and it's not about if you can buy it or not. It really isn't. Like, I love the markets. I'm a huge fan of financial news, but that's not the main concern here. You know, I love following it, but so it's about the art, and I love to see, you know, the innovations, and we're going to see here, and this is another thing actually. And so I brought up Turbo, reviewing over and over the same artists. I mean, I brought up Turbo yesterday. I mean, I introduced, you know, the people watching this to Turbo Jambon, you know, and so if you ever go to Berlin, for those that might not have seen that, I mean, this hilarious performance artist, Turbo Jambon, also known as Patrick, if you're looking for what to do, you can fly into Berlin, and because you now know who Turbo Jambon, the performance artist, is, who shows up to everything cool and posts about it, you now know where to go, knowing nobody in theory in Berlin. Feel free to reach out if anybody comes to Berlin, but you can just go to his Twitter feed, Turbo Jambon, and you can find out what's going on this April 15th, right? So you just, you know, and he'll put it in real time when he gets to the gallery. So you can fly in here, know nobody, and you can end up at, you know, the real, like one of the front row seat on the Berlin scene. So I think, you know, we're introducing you to all sorts of people. Now, Namjoon Paik, I think is how you'd pronounce that. So I just want to show some images more here, and there's too much to go through. I actually used ChatGPT to summarize for us the significance of Namjoon Paik in a paragraph, but Patrick there was very influenced, and we were seeing other people were referencing Namjoon Paik yesterday. So here are some of the works with the TVs, right? You see the TVs here. I think is considered the first video artist, or one of the originals, using a ton of TVs, the more the better, here in 1988. You see almost the glitchy, this is from 2021. Now here's ChatGPT's summary here. Namjoon Paik was a visionary artist who pioneered the use of television and video in art, influencing generations of artists and shaping the way we consume media. He is widely considered the father of video art, and his experimental works and collaborations with musicians and artists like John Cage and Charlotte Moorman push the boundaries of traditional art forms. Paik's influence on the art world can still be seen today, from the way artists incorporate technology into their work to the widespread use of video installations in museums and galleries. So a very important artist. And again, huge influence on Patrick here, who we're seeing with the computers on the hanging from the shoulders there. So anyways, a quick summary of Namjoon Paik, just because I didn't frankly know that much. So and probably a lot of people as well. So, and this is often a criticism that the NFT scene gets is, digital art didn't start in 2017. So let's, get some more information along the way and just educate ourselves along the way. Here is, and I turned off the volume here. I'm going to show some excerpts of Ed's video here, but look at how awesome it is. And you can see Metallica up there. And it looks like it's kind of a great concept, like a great solution, right? So I just think this is really, really awesomely done. And there's like 20,000 views. I mean, that is awesome. 1,000 likes. So congratulations to Ed. And there they are again. And the record player, just brilliant. So this is awesome. And, pretty exciting for Ed as an artist. And this is brilliant how they keep coming back in. So anyways, and even the pixelated Metallica Room of Mirrors. So super cool from Ed Marola, also known as Eduardo Politzer. So Indio Robot, watching yesterday's show, check this out. So we were speculating on Uxine using AI and the collaboration, and is this, Uxine and Indio Robot giving the AI work to Uxine to work with? And yes, that is the case. This is the raw output from Midjourney. Uxine killed it. I gave all artists a few outputs to choose from. Info event here. So here is the original, and then it gets the Uxine treatment. So that's pretty cool. So we were right about that. And again, for me, this is all very interesting to follow how artists are, how is AI being incorporated into a work so we've discussed this already. Also, Hasdrubal Waffle, yes, and we were speculating the work called Psychogeography, if that was a reference to Will Self, the author. Yes, Will Self did experiment with psychogeography, and the Dérive believed he walked from LAX to downtown Los Angeles. I think I've actually done that in Toulouse. I went from downtown to the airport. That was surreal, actually. The concept is from The Situationists. They would get inebriated and wander the city, making a new maps based on their travel. Awesome show, thank you. So thank you, Hasdrubal Waffle. So this is, in fact, that work was a reference to Will Self and even The Situationists, interestingly. Wasteman Goldminovich. Thanks for showing the work, Adrian. For what it's worth, is more of a critique of commodity culture in general, referring to the infamous McDee's battered chicken head. So this looks almost like a fake, but if that's real, that is disturbing. That is from 2000, AP photo. I mean, this could all be doctored, but that's an AP photo, so that is totally disturbing. Thank you, Wasteman, for the comment. Lucas Ox. So great episode. After your question about if I'm new here, and then we discovered Lucas Ox has 6 pages of work on object, I had to make this thread to tell some things about me. Have a great week. So this is great. So check that out. Lucas Ox explains about his work. And I thought this was great. So we were looking at the orb yesterday, right? And it looks like this is how it was made. I mean, this looks like Ableton, which is really weird, with a V-synth. I mean, an interesting aspect of this collection is the challenge of achieving a spherical appearance from flat video signals, which I effectively achieved using a fisheye effect. However, it requires much more processing to make the motion flow with the volume of each orb. So anyways, maybe this is just an interface that's inspired by Ableton, but it kind of looks like Ableton, is it Max? Max Live? I can't remember. Anyways, interesting creation. I would have guessed that that was sort of a video of a TV screen. So just super interesting. So thank you for the comment, Lucas. And finally, NZFS. You're right, Pocobelli. We, NZFS, and Santiago might not be the same person, but if we were, ain't exactly this what we would do to make you think so, right, Santiago? So anyways, they seem to be separate people. So, I mean, this is another thing with the anonymous accounts, right? And yeah, and then Uxine just meant to tag me in the previous post that we were discussing yesterday, and that was it. So just a little miscommunication there. And here's Uxine, but check this out. Async art, the Forever Supper begins tomorrow. So this looks super interesting. And I feel like the Uxine, what I love about the head here, it seems to be developing. Like the Sotheby's one seemed to look a little different. Maybe that was the upgrade, but it seems to be changing all the time. And this one looks fabulous. So Uxine, with very simple ideas, kind of reattacking these things like the profile picture here. Like if we look here, yeah, so he's using that here. Anyway, we could go into all this, but I just want to say, like, first, that looks cool, whatever they're working up with async, but this also is looking great. Like, I mean, I find that inspiring. So very nice work. Sky Goodman, a Tezos, this is a just interesting comment on the Tezos ETH markets. A Tezos sale may not compare to making an ETH sale, but what I love about Tez is you can sell some works and say, wow, that paid for my haircut and groceries today. The very little bits add up in such a real way. I totally agree with Sky, and it's just sort of like if you're getting any revenue as an artist, this is a total win. And sometimes that low price point that happens on Object, where you can buy a work for $5 or $10, sometimes less, makes it a lot easier for people to buy. So, and that adds up, is sort of what Sky's saying, and I totally agree with that. Like if you needed some quick cash to pay for a haircut, you can kind of do that. And here are some photos of Sabato at Sotheby's, and Sabato and the team, and I wasn't sure who the others, I assume Dania is in here, so others from the Beyond Binary sale here. But anyways, I thought these are great to see. So unfortunately, I don't see the names in this tweet, but it looks like just more info, and I do know this is Sabato on the left. So very cool. Really nice work from Lucifuge, also known as Luciana Guerra, if I'm pronouncing that right, and a really cool abstract work, this time horizontal. And check this out. It's kind of a sad one. Have been sad for a while. I see every day how poverty increases in my country. More people living on the streets, kids with no homes selling Band-Aids for the soul. Old people with diseases dying with no help of the government. Sad to see how Argentina is dying. Inferno. So, yeah, I mean, last I saw, Argentina was suffering 104% inflation. So, and we're going to see works by Bazaya. Bazaya is also in Argentina, but I mean, more reasons for crypto, isn't it? But it's sad. Not everybody is buying Bitcoin, So anyways, a sad inspiration for this work, but it's a beautiful work. This abstraction is coming along. I'm not sure if this is all digital or not. I can't remember, but it looks great. Beautiful piece. Mikael Knowlson, who actually him along with Chi Moscow Jackson were the two people that probably the reason why this show is still going. I put out something on Spotify last August, and Michael, I think you'd pronounce it, and Chi somehow found it and said, hey, this is great, keep going, and yeah, do a YouTube, don't make it audio. So anyway, shout out to Michael Knowlson, who has work out on Wednesday, Continuez après, and let's just open this here. So an abstract work here, and this is going to be on exchange.art. I think Michael does both physical and digital. Let's just look here. And there's a poem in French. So continuez après, continue after. And if we go, so here it is. It's going to be for 60 sol. And if we go to Michael, working with paint, pencils, canvas, computer screens, and dirt, a dead pixel on a new TV. So has done very well in the past as well. So anyways, I hope it's not the first time Michael's on this show, but it's long overdue if it is. So anyway, some cool abstracts on exchange.art. And, it reminds me of Sabato, who was saying there's a lot of kind of appreciation for almost abstract expressionist type art on Solana. So here is an example. So here is a work I missed the other day, MemoCat NFT, Transcendent Encounters. And as longtime viewers of this show will know, I'm a huge fan of MemoCat, and almost a rougher kind of work here. This is on foundation, almost a more metaphysical work with what seems to be almost like a mirror of sorts in this kind of, astronomical setting, for lack of a better term. And here the person, the MemoCat, so to speak, is mirrored. So you see the technique evolving here. And a reserve of only 0.12 ETH. This was minted on April 1st. And MemoCat also released this yesterday. So, oftentimes I do this like more than anybody. We mint a work and then we basically let it go and then we don't do anything and then it kind of goes off into obscurity. So this is brilliant what MemoCat did. Posted this morning, so I see it and I go, oh, MemoCat has new work. I didn't see the first one because, of course, you're not going to see everything on Twitter. And so her putting out this work in progress piece, which is super cool, made me aware to go check her foundation and then seeing, oh, she does have a new work. So all to say, it's good to have kind of a constant news flow as an artist because not everybody's going to see your tweets or your Instagram or whatever medium you're using. So interesting way she composed this, hey? So kind of I almost want to say a I was going to say abstract, like almost surreal. And you see here where it's coming from, like it's almost like a gazing into one's inner self to a certain degree, but then the head, which is this large part here, is cut off. Like, so really interesting to see how that's composed. I feel like we learn about what that work's about by seeing the work in progress there. Look at this super interesting topical work by Dan Control, and it is called Nuke. Kind of a cool title there too. So it looks like a mushroom cloud, so kind of fitting the zeitgeist here a little bit. And again, going with all gradients, and it's almost easy to forget that. But you see how, elaborate and complex these gradients are getting here. So an interesting interpretation of a mushroom cloud for 0.1 ETH, courtesy of Dan Control, Nuke. A beautiful new work by Jan Lucas Migon, who we've seen a ton of Jan's work on Object. And here is a nice big work on foundation, working with these colors that we saw in the last work that was on Object, where there's one kind of bright person and then a whole bunch of skeletons. So anyways, super interesting artist here. Kind of mysterious here, almost a bit of an Inferno feel to it. The Bull Run Dreamer, Enter Fantasy. So interesting. And here's maybe referring to the bull runs actually not financially, but that happened in Spain, because that's what this almost looks like, are these bulls chasing the people. So anyway, really cool piece here. Sold for 0.4 ETH and a little bit of a bidding war, slightly. Sad boy went to Gabriel Santos actually is one of the people. He's been around for a while, this collector. He picked a work up off me in 2021, I think, on Super Rare. So shout out to G-Blast. Gabriel Santos, sticking around and continuing to collect. That's super cool. Bazaya de la Creme. This looks physical. I mean, I'm not sure, but it kind of looks physical to me. But I actually can't tell, and this kind of feeds into a discussion we've been having where it's starting to almost not make a difference here, because I'm seeing everything by the screen anyway. I mean, it looks physical. GM, nice week for all from Ricardus. The Genesis, Season 1, Episode 1, I kind of think it might be physical. And because there's just small little things that you probably wouldn't do in digital, where you lose control a little bit. So anyways, super interesting to see Bazaya's new work anyway, or a play on Ricardus. Look at this beautiful work. I love this work by Kappa. Kappa Sage, surrounded by Kappa's work. And there's something just kind of awesome about this work. The classic, super interesting dynamic composition that we know and love from Kappa's work, and just surrounded by all these great works that Kappa's made over the last year here. So just really cool. Even I think the collaboration with GloomTube maybe up there. And I just think this is a really fun, cool portrait of an artist from the NFT scene. So anyways, I think it's still available too. Buy for $5.55, edition of 20 on secondary, but pretty reasonable. Great work. Rustic Digital Art with another interesting piece, still playing off the Mario theme, this time on Foundation, reserve of 0.15, and we have just Escalona 2023, so not much said here. And again, combining pixels and digital painting and then irrational elements like someone scribbling on a wall, but actually it's clouds. And you see here as well, the clouds that basically go forward, but then there's a corner here, so the space is kind of being interrupted. And for those that are new, and welcome all new subscribers, for those that are new, Rustic Digital Art is one of the things that he's explained that he's doing here is almost a response to AI, the purposefully irrational works, which almost is a contradiction to be purposefully irrational. But these purposefully irrational works, it's almost his response, I believe he said at one point, to AI, which I think is quite interesting and kind of profound. And here's someone just playing, it looks like a Nintendo 64 with a bit of an old school TV here, and then some pixelation. So it doesn't make sense on purpose, in other words, and exploring that. And you see here almost like a golf hole. So anyways, you can probably go on, and this kid. So anyways, maybe a self-portrait as a kid. Runetune with a work wine service. Good to see Runetune's work, and I really loved how there is the movement here, and then this beautiful textured shirts here, and as well here, a variation on the shirt. So anyways, a beautiful work. It's fine. And a few people drinking some red wine in what looks like maybe a bar, wine bar, cafe sort of thing. So anyways, very cool work from Runetune. Nice detailed wall in the background. A lot of nice details in here. So a great work by Runetune, and a subject that I love, wine service, 25 Tezos, and that is on secondary. So this looks like it's sold out pretty quickly. They're sold for $250, and maybe Runetune is holding on to a few. Yeah, he's got 7, but the rest are gone, and maybe some sent to accepted offers. So yeah, so anyways, doing very well. Now you got to buy it on secondary for $25. So you can hear from Runetune tomorrow. You can ask him about the work actually on Twitter Spaces, should you desire. John Carroll, John, aka John, with another one of one, this time at auction for $300 living room. And so again, playing with these everyday objects and combining them, but then kind of floating into each other a little bit. So interesting, original, instantly recognizable from John Carroll. So that's very cool. We used to have exactly these plant pots back where I come from at home in Saskatoon, and we would put tomato plants. My dad would grow tomato plants. So anyways, I think they probably still do that. RJ. This is a more concept work from RJ, and you got to love that. Minting right now, communication, a piece in two parts, call on Tezos, response on ETH, an investigation into connection, split across chains. So here we see a classic RJ computer with a screensaver, with his beautiful screensaver that he does. So I found one on object here, and it's a one of one. I couldn't find the one that was on Ethereum. Maybe that hasn't been minted yet. So anyway, cool work as ever from RJ. Francois Gamma Axes. I don't think we've looked at this. This is just from yesterday. So more interesting works. These look like masks, don't they? They almost look like hockey masks or Venetian masks or who knows what. So anyways, just more interesting work from Francois Gamma, who is super prolific here. And a work by mech.txt, one of these pixel portraits, I want to call it. My Mom is So Awesome is the series. Agreed. All our moms are awesome. Shout out to Mom, is what I'm trying to say here. 120 by 120 pixels and then scaled up. So this went to an early collector, which is pretty cool. He mentioned on Twitter, Apfelbaum. So giving a thank you to an early collector. And here's another work by mech.txt, kind of combining landscape and the framing and the river and other stuff. So interesting experimentation from mech.txt. We're all grand magicians, forging meaning out of thin air, separating a silver of order in the chaotic river. Have a good Tuesday, everyone. So anyways, cool work. This is Manidal, work in progress. So you see Aseprite, which is, if you don't know, one of the main pixel art software programs. Work in progress, 1% of my next Polaroid for EA, I assume that's exchange.art on Solana, the main marketplace on Solana. And here's Manidal.art with more work, and I don't know if we have volume on this. There is no volume on it. So anyways, a cool work, which also, new Catterday on exchange.art, so I couldn't find that. So I think it's going to be out in 48 hours. So Manidal often releases their work ahead of time. And here is Manidal's, and maybe that's Manidal there. So anyways, that sure looks like it, so that's great. So there's Manidal, the person who made the Cat Tarot series, which to me is an instant classic, and the Cat Supper and more. So just an awesome artist. Look at this collaboration here between Armilk and Gogolitis. So kind of a match made in heaven here. So it looks like an Armilk composition, if I had to guess, with Gogolitis treatment of colors, and even in the background here we see the maze. And it's actually kind of interesting. The Gogolitis sun, or whatever that's radiating here, is kind of flowing into the Armilk mosaic. And here it looks like there's a little bit more Gogolitis, so really combining themselves. And look at the signatures at the bottom, the big A and the Gogolitis. So this looks like a classic. Super cool combo. So I don't think that's minted yet. Leprochant with an interesting piece, just an angel head, what looks like a dithered either portrait of a child or of a statue, and with some movement in the background. But you know what else I see here? I see almost like a Gulliver's Travels type situation with all the small Lilliputians. I think you'd call them homunculi. I have to check that word. But almost like, you see how it's like curtained off here, or it's like there's a fence, or it's separated from this crowd here, almost like it's a big, installation of sorts, and who knows what. So anyways, interesting piece from Leprochant, edition of 3, and 1 sent to me. Okay, so there we go. And Runetune has bid on another one. So anyway, shout out to Leprochant. Very nice comments as well. 1-Bit Horror. Check this out. So 1-Bit Horror, here we go. A little volume. Goes physical again. So you see here, if you can see this, there's a little 3.5-inch diskette here, and then there's a rose, and our newest limited edition Giclée is available for purchase, the Rose of Doom. It's an edition of 10. Get it before it sells out. So anyways, a new print by 1-Bit Horror. I actually was tempted to get the other one, and it sold out. It was an edition of 5. I mean, you get the diskette with it too. So anyways, pretty cool as ever from 1-Bit Horror. This is Don't Be So Vasya. And so anyways, let me actually, in case that's copyright. So here, just a rose that's pixelated. It's almost what looks like a bit of a variation or experimentation from Don't Be So Vasya. Cool work, Decay. So nice piece there on the Twitter feed. And this was a work, I think we've looked at Kitasavi. This is a work by Kitasavi, which just turned my head here. Some pixelation, but it almost looks like physical, almost like Rubik's Cube or something. It almost looks physical, these pixelated squares here. And then some sort of sculptural work, so just kind of a mysterious work. Bob. So perhaps a portrait of sorts. Renki, another pixel artist that I think we've looked at recently with these kind of edgy abstractions here. Just stuff you wouldn't normally think of doing. So just really original. Even look at this line of pixels here and up here. So interesting work from Renki. This is Shin Shimaneski. So I think we've looked at some of their work before. Datura with another piece here, an open edition Prism 4. And some nice, almost kind of blurred out pixels here. Kind of a glitchy work from Datura. So continuing to be interesting. 3 minted so far, edition of open edition, and 3 Tezos each right now. Dr. Version, who you're also going to hear from tomorrow. This is a work I missed. I was just looking at Dr. Version's page, and this was minted on April 5th, and I was looking at how beautifully rich these gradients are. I think there's color field, so you almost see a bit of a Rothko sort of feeling to it, but you gotta love how just beautifully rich these textures are, and it's kind of breathing a little bit here. Color field in the hashtag there. So 08, so that is a 1 of 1, and let's just see what happened there. No sales, so still available from Dr. Version if you put in an offer perhaps. So that is out there. Here's another one, Magma Cube from Acid Soup. And this is from a series called Otherworldly Objects. And it looks like 0 editions right now, so I don't know if they burnt this or not, but anyways, kind of an interesting work, abstract work by Acid Soup. And Spiegelmaschinen, Big Sleep. So I think we saw an earlier version of this on Twitter, maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I think I showed it, but I don't think it had this blue net here, so that may have been a late edition, perhaps. And you gotta love how the blue reflects off the bed there. So beautifully done as ever from Spiegelmaschinen, Big Sleep. And Kurt Hustle Collective with a screensaver called Belongings. So just kind of an interesting piece here. And if we look at Kurt Hustle's recent work, yeah, so a few turtles have come out. And then we have this interesting screensaver here. So, I mean, unpredictable as ever. And you can kind of see it's given a certain treatment here. Kind of looks dithered or some kind of bitmap export of a certain kind. And, you know, maybe a dinosaur, some, you know, cleaning products, a drink, maybe clock. So anyways, kind of an interesting piece. Looks like you could use it as it looks like the background of a screensaver. I guess that's the point. Continuing on, Tezos with a new work, kind of a new direction here. Inertio, I think is how you'd pronounce it. So tons of equipment used in this. Let's just expand it, see if there's any volume. There's no audio. And more small people going into the TV and coming out. So going into the red version, coming out the blue. So anyways, interesting piece from Tezos. Buy now for 15. And more glitch work. This is by Klaus. Real-time generative graphics made in Quartz. Composer, fed through analog video hardware like Panasonic, Edirol, Sony, Tachyons. So there it is. So just more interesting glitch work as we continue to survey these artists, which could fill a museum in itself. So this is Klaus, whose work I think we've started looking at recently. And here's Exmortal with a pretty nice still. And I think we might see the video that this came out of. So just continuing on, maybe that's not the video it came out of. So Exmortal, noise study number 48. So this just came out, a 1 of 1. So more experimentation here. Again, I really love this idea that if you're making an experiment, just make it, and you're not sure about it, or you think, okay, you just make it a 1 of 1, and then it becomes very collectible. 2D plane in 3D space. So this is also by Klaus, okay, so who we just looked at there. And so more just kind of abstraction, using, old hardware video technology, right? And just coming up with these interesting outputs, right? And here we see it. So generative graphics feed made in Quartz Composer, fed through Tachyon Synchronizer, and then upscaled and converted, and then upscaled again. And yeah, so on it goes, traveling through different hardware. And here's Somthe, Mother of Pearl. So this is a reinterpretation of Johannes Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring. So that is kind of cool. And here it is. Let's see if there's volume. It's almost like a punk version. You could almost make a statue of this. There's a really cool punk statue in Kreuzberg here in Berlin that I saw yesterday. I'll take a picture the next time I walk past it. This kind of reminds me of that with the rainbow hair. Anyways, cool work from Somfei. Posted on Twitter, 6,000 views. Amazing. And here the side hustle is experimenting with AI. And I don't think I've ever seen Side Hustle do that. So you might remember Side Hustle does these pixel kind of rooms, has collaborated with LB. And so AI generated glitched with obsolete software, uses a lot of retro tools, as I like to call them. Edition of 3 for 5 Tezos. So experimenting with AI and stretching things out and everything. A little bit of dithering there. OG. Sky Goodman. Bubblegum in romantic sector lows AI collab kicks. So another variation on the kicks on the shoes, the runners, the sneakers. And interestingly, these ones look fairly normal in terms of they're not distorted. I mean, this heel is quite large, but kind of normal. But then it's more about the surrounding areas. I mean, they're quite shiny, though, at the same time. And almost looks like perhaps they're Adidas trainers there. So anyways, more interesting AI works, using a whole bunch of techniques by Sky Goodman. And this is by Pearl, Little Wormby. So more, and I think this is, you remember Pastelay, who uses a lot of kind of dithered old Game Boys using these colors, computers. I think this is their AI account called Pearl, because they retweeted this a couple of weeks ago, this account. So I think this is their AI work. So just kind of original, unusual AI work from pearl.tez. And here, finally, my friend Paulina, actually, from Berlin, has a great feed, actually, if you're ever looking for a good art feed. And she posted this work by Susan Jane Walp from Tibord Denagi. And I thought just nice physical work here, isn't it? And here is also from Tibord Denagi, so a different artist in the gallery. Look at how great this is. So I'd never heard of this gallery here, Tibord Denagi, if I'm pronouncing that right. Tibord Denagi. I don't even know what country they're in. But let's just take a quick look. Yeah, I'm not even sure here. Shall we quickly look here? What do we see here? New York. So maybe Paulina is in New York right now. So interesting. So anyways, this is great. All of it. So this is another artist, I think Joe Brainard from 1969. Look at this. I've never seen this before. So beautiful. Interesting gallery. And finally, Joao Salazar with a really cool plasticine work here, and this is available on Foundation. I think it actually sold, or you can still bid for another 7 hours. It's at 0.2 ETH. So another awesome plasticine work here. And that, my friends, is your show. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, take care. See you on Twitter Spaces tomorrow.